area tonight. Hoboken, the worst of what you've seen, or have you seen it just as bad in a lot of the towns along that stretch?
Well, Sandra, when we were in Jersey City earlier this evening, it was very dramatic there too. The Hudson River had completely trespassed its borders and were coming up into downtown, and it was going so quickly. At one point when Jen Maxfield was on live, we were constantly backing up from that water, which is already 2 or 3 blocks from the water's edge, and it was just, the current was very strong. So that was very intimidating to see the Hudson River come barreling down Jersey City streets and with no end in sight. So actually our boss pulled us way back in that situation. And of course we saw flooding and other dramatic rescue that was in Weehawken. And so all around this community, I don't know if I could say one was worse than the other. They were all really terrible.
And if you were in Hoboken right when the water came in, it would probably be a similar sight to Jersey City. I mean, the gentleman you talked to with the furniture shop mentioned that the water was 4 to 5 feet high in his store.
Yes.
So you can imagine how fast the water came in to reach that level.
Absolutely. I don't know if you can see this white wall behind me. That'll give you a sense of the dirt level is how high the water came up at this gas station. So when we first tried to make our way back into Hoboken tonight, most of the roads were impassable. We certainly did not want to we did not want to stall out on any of these streets and cause more problems when we're here to try to report on the problems. But as the water receded, we were able to move our way into the community, go back to check out the PATH station and some other streets. So yes, at the height of it, I think they were all horrible.
And right now it's raining, Lucy. Your hood's back on. For a couple of minutes you had a little respite from the rain, but it's coming down now.
That was my first time all night.
Yeah.
That was my first time all night not having my hood on. If it wasn't the rain, it was the wind.
Yeah.
And we know how bad hair looks on the air.
Okay. Yes, we all have a passing acquaintance with some bad hair on the air.
But you're still looking great. Thank you so much, Lucy. We're going to turn now to Amy Freeze, who can let us know a little bit more about that rain that's going through. We saw Jen Maxfield also in the rain, and she's up in Hackensack, and so Lucy Yang is in Hoboken, so it's moving through the area.
Yeah, we're actually seeing some moderate rain bands across the area, and this is going to be the case overnight tonight into tomorrow. The streets are still wet outside, and we're seeing some light rain here. Central Park's latest observation, a gust up to 25 miles an hour, and we're still seeing peak wind gusts. Teterboro, 41 miles an hour. LaGuardia, 52. So within the last hour, there are still these gusts above 45 miles an hour. And even as we go into tomorrow, we'll have gusty winds at times. Not completely out of the woods on every issue. The storm is less intense. It is pulling away from us, but we still have rain in the area. We still have wind gusts, and then we also have high tide tomorrow morning to get through. First up, let's talk about the winds. They're going to be coming out of the south and southeast up against the shorelines overnight tonight. Yellow indicating that the wind speeds are going to be 35 to 45 miles per hour. More gusty, these waves of wind coming and going at times. Into early tomorrow morning, the winds will become more southerly as we get into the mid-morning hours. And as this happens, we'll still see some water being pushed up on the south-facing shores. And this is right through high tide tomorrow. So the high tides will be occurring between about 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Wide range there. For Battery Park, for example, the latest water levels show that the Battery went back down, the water back into its banks in lower Manhattan. And during the high tide tomorrow at 9:07, the forecast is for a minor to moderate situation. So we could once again see the water coming up against that splash wall, but going over it, not as likely as we saw during the first high tide, and certainly not what we saw during the storm surge. As we get into tomorrow afternoon, the winds really start to weaken. The center of the storm is pulled all the way away from us, and although it remains intense as it moves off to the west, we see less and less wind as the day goes on. Breezy conditions will continue through the afternoon, evening. These are the top wind speeds that we saw during the storm. Forecasted a top wind gust in the storm of 80 to 100 miles an hour. We verified Eaton's Neck at 94 miles an hour, Islip 90 miles an hour. You can see across the board just incredible wind speeds. Atlantic City is where Sandy made landfall with hurricane force winds of 80 miles an hour. Now, I want to show you some of the other peak wind gusts across the area because not everything happened right there near that eye wall, or the center of the eye making landfall. A lot of the stuff happened inland. We had incredible wind speeds at Newark Airport, a 78-mile-an-hour wind. Jackson Heights, 79 miles an hour. JFK, near 80 mile an hour. Breezy Point, 79. East Farmingdale, 79. We're wondering why all of these power outages are occurring. Look at the widespread hurricane-force winds recorded across the area. White Plains, 72-mile-an-hour winds. Bridgeport, 76. So we get a little bit lesser here in some of these numbers, but impressive nonetheless. Danbury, Connecticut, 66 miles an hour. Trumbull had 68-mile-an-hour winds, and Greenwich having a 70-mile-an-hour wind. Rainfall totals, let's talk about the rain. We'll get into the radar, but the heaviest rain from Sandy actually happened in the Washington, D.C. area, around Maryland, parts of eastern Virginia, and then, of course, into parts of Delaware, too. Some really incredible rain, upwards of 8 inches from this storm. Now, the radar and satellite picture shows just how big Sandy continues to be for us. Let's get inside and look at these rain bands that look like they're developing here up in the Hudson River Valley. Let's get into this and look at the yellows. That indicates a moderate and even some oranges. So we could see some heavier rain bands like this developing overnight. So this is just along 287 near Oakland. We're getting a downpour and a shower there. This light rain is more likely across parts of the area, but we'll continue to see these moderate bands setting up. And during the day tomorrow, there is the risk of the rainfall and rain showers. So showers likely on and off throughout the afternoon. Gusts to 50 miles an hour are still possible. We'll see temperatures in the low 60s. You guys, as far as this week goes, we are going to have the threat of rain for a couple of days around here. Here's the AccuWeather 7-day forecast. Showers linger into Wednesday. Early rain and breezy conditions on Thursday, but late in the week as we press towards Marathon Sunday, temperatures are going to be in the mid-50s, it looks like, on race day, and the pattern a lot quieter. Of course, there's an incredible cleanup in front of us, and as daybreak happens, really there are so many unknowns, so many factors that we just haven't been able to evaluate just yet.
Get a good look at everything, Amy, and then some of that sunshine can at least get people on the road to feeling a little bit better, even as they clean up.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Amy. We're joined now by Dr. David Feldman. He's the Director of Emergency Services at Hackensack University Medical Center. Good morning to you, Dr. Feldman. Tell us a little bit about the folks you've been treating throughout the course of the storm.
Well, us at Hackensack University Medical Center, we are a regional trauma center, so we have been quite busy throughout the evening taking care of both trauma patients that